The aroma of pot roast filled the Pierce family dining room in Columbus, Ohio, blending with the scent of fresh rolls and the quiet tension that always hung over Sunday dinners. I carefully arranged the silverware, aligning each fork just so, while my younger sister Madison's voice carried in from the living room. "I'm up to 20,000 followers now," she announced, waving her phone like it was an Olympic medal. "The sponsorship offers are pouring in," she added, grinning. From the corner of my eye, I caught Dad's approving nod. Mom beamed, tucking a strand of her perfectly styled hair behind her ear. "That's wonderful, sweetie," she said warmly. "Your hard work is really paying off." I set the last knife in place and quietly took my seat, still invisible as always. 27 years old and still setting the table like I was 12. Still living in my childhood bedroom, while Madison, at 25, basked in the spotlight of her social media fame. Mom and Dad exchanged a knowing look across the table, the kind that comes before a rehearsed conversation. Mom cleared her throat, her voice taking on that honeyed tone she used when she wanted something. "Alexandra, honey," she began, passing me the mashed potatoes. "We need to talk about your room." I paused, fork hovering above my plate. "Madison needs it for her studio," Mom continued, smiling as if she were offering me a favor instead of an eviction notice. "The lighting's better than in her room, and she needs more space for her equipment." Before I could answer, Dad's fist hit the table, rattling the water glasses. "Either give it up or get out of this house," he barked, all pretense of discussion gone. "It's time you found your own place anyway." Madison smirked across the table, twirling a strand of blonde hair around her finger. "It's not like you need space to shuffle papers," she said with a dismissive shrug. The table went silent. Everyone waited, expecting tears or protest. Instead, I calmly cut a piece of pot roast and chewed slowly, keeping my expression neutral. Inside my head, a very different scene unfolded. My small upstairs room, my one sanctuary, wasn't just a bedroom. It was my office. My command center. The heart of a life they knew nothing about. Finance books lined the shelves. A modest desk held my computer, the same computer that displayed an investment portfolio worth millions. While they'd been watching Madison perform in talent shows and school plays, I'd been working weekend jobs, studying financial management online, and building my consulting business. Client by client. Dollar by dollar. I glanced down at my phone beneath the table, swiping past the apartment listings I'd been scrolling through all week. I'd been planning my exit for years, quietly saving, investing, while they assumed I was just drifting between temp jobs. My mind flickered back to when I was 14. I could still feel the weight of that shoebox in my hands as I counted $780 in crumpled bills, tips and diner shifts from months of work. Enough for the laptop I'd been dreaming of. "Alexandra," Mom had said that afternoon, standing in my doorway with that soft, practiced smile. "Madison needs video equipment for her school project, the one that might get her noticed by that arts program." I remembered how Dad had taken the box from my hands without a word, how they'd both talked over my protests. "Your sister needs this for her future," he'd said firmly. Later, I locked myself in the bathroom, knees against the cold tile, sobbing quietly as I made a silent promise. I would never depend on them again. That was the day I understood my place in this family, the invisible one, whose efforts were dismissed as that spreadsheet hobby. 13 years later, nothing had changed except me. I placed my napkin beside my plate and stood, my chair sliding back without a sound. "I understand," I said evenly. "I'll have an answer by next Sunday." Madison's smirk faltered, confusion flickering across her face. Mom and Dad exchanged puzzled glances. This wasn't the reaction they'd expected. They'd wanted tears, pleading from the Alexandra who used to give in. Eli, my younger brother, watched quietly. At 18, he was starting to see things for what they really were. "Alexandra," Mom began, but I was already walking toward the stairs, posture straight, voice calm. "We can discuss the details later," I said over my shoulder. Madison, make a list of what changes you want for the room. I'll need to know what to prepare for. Behind me, their voices rose again, already debating paint colors and lighting setups for Madison's new studio. They'd already forgotten I was leaving the room, just as they'd always forgotten I was in it. In the privacy of my bedroom, I closed the door, took out my phone, and scrolled to a contact I'd saved months ago but never called. Until now, Marjorie Klein's professional voice answered on the second ring. I exhaled slowly, feeling years of weight lift from my shoulders. "Marjorie, this is Alexandra Pierce," I said, my gaze fixed on the house across the street, the one with the for sale sign I'd been staring at for weeks. "I'm ready to make that move." We agreed to talk again the next morning. Dad's laptop sits unguarded on the kitchen counter, his email open like a treasure map. The house hums quietly, just the dishwasher and my heartbeat. My fingers hover above the keys. This isn't me breaking into someone's digital world. But then again, neither was their ultimatum. About my room. I click on a folder labeled Family Finances. The screen floods with spreadsheets that make my stomach twist. Credit card statements stretch endlessly, a digital tapestry of debt I never knew existed. $180,000. The number stares back at me, bold and unforgiving. My parents have drained everything to bankroll Madison's influencer career. Line after line tells the story. Camera gear, lighting kits, editing software, even a $3,000 content creation workshop in Chicago, each one carefully labeled as business expenses in Dad's notes. Digging deeper, I find an email thread between my parents. Plans for a second mortgage. The house I grew up in, leveraged for Madison's online fantasy. A new message notification flashes, Madison Talent Agency. I shouldn't open it. I do anyway. "I'm projecting to hit 50K followers next month," she wrote. I check her actual numbers. Dad's bookmarked her analytics dashboard, 19,723 followers. Not even half. The front door rattles. I slam the laptop shut, heart hammering. Mom walks in with grocery bags, barely glancing my way. "Alexandra," she calls as I reach the stairs. "Don't forget Sunday's deadline." Madison's been making plans for that room for weeks. I freeze mid-step. "My financial paperwork will box it all up for you," I say evenly. Mom's voice turns syrupy. "Just be careful. Some of it might get accidentally thrown away during cleaning." You know how that happens. Her casual threat chills me. 7 days. That's how long I have before they expect me to give up my room, along with any proof of the life I've built. I grab my laptop and drive to Crimson Cup Coffee, my unofficial office. The barista nods as I order my usual black coffee, no room. Settled into my corner booth, I open my dashboard. $2.7 million in company earnings this fiscal year. 3 full-time employees. Clients in 4 countries. I take a slow sip, the bitterness grounding me as a quiet confidence takes root where doubt used to live. I stare at the message, a plan crystallizing in my mind. This isn't just about finding somewhere to live anymore. I won't just leave. I whisper to my screen. "I'll make a statement they can't ignore, though." I text Marjorie back. Yes, looking for something specific, preferably visible from my parents' house. Her response is almost immediate. "I have just the place meet at 3 p.m. I smile for the first time in days. Perfect. 3 hours later, Marjorie's sleek car pulls up to a 2-story colonial directly across from my parents' house. The for sale sign I'd been eyeing for weeks stands in the front yard. This is exactly what I want. I tell Marjorie as we walk up the stone path. Something they'll see every single day. Marjorie's professional veneer cracks slightly, her eyebrow raising. "Interesting choice of words," she says, unlocking the door. "Most clients talk about what they want to see, not what they want others to see," before I can respond. Someone calls my name from the sidewalk. Chloe Baxter waves, crossing the street with a folder tucked under her arm. Her auburn hair catches the afternoon sun as she navigates around a parked car. "I brought those property listings you asked about," she says, climbing the steps to join us. But I see Marjorie's already got you covered. Chloe has believed in me since college. When I showed her my business plan scrawled on coffee shop napkins while everyone else saw pipe dreams. She saw potential. Alexandra's financials have been pre-approved, Marjorie explains. As we tour the house, the sellers are motivated. We could fast-track this if you're serious. The master bedroom overlooks my parents' house. I stand at the window, imagining waking up to this view every morning. A daily reminder of what I've built and what they failed to see. My bank manager was impressed with your statements. Marjorie continues making notes on her tablet. Not many 27-year-olds qualify for a mortgage this size without co-signers. My phone buzzes again. A text from Eli. Whatever you're planning, you deserve better than this. I stare at his message, surprised. When did my little brother start noticing what was happening in our house? When did he start taking my side? I'll take it, I tell Marjorie, tucking my phone away. How quickly can we close? Wednesday if we push? Her eyes widened slightly. That's incredibly fast. Are you sure? Absolutely, I say, already calculating the down payment. I'll transfer the funds tonight. Later. Sitting at the kitchen table while my parents and Madison discuss her brand strategy, I signed the preliminary papers Marjorie emailed over. My parents still think I'm job hunting, unaware that their invisible daughter is about to become their highly visible neighbor. The money transfers with a single click, a substantial down payment that represents years of work they never bothered to ask about. The bittersweet realization settles over me. I'm buying a home but losing my family. Or maybe I lost them years ago and I'm only now accepting it. Pride replaces the hollow ache. I built this success without their knowledge or support, without their belief. Maybe that makes it more mine than anything else could. As Madison laughs about her latest sponsorship prospect, a flicker of doubt passes through me. Is this revenge or freedom? Maybe it's both. Morning sunlight spilled through my curtains as I opened my eyes to the sound of rustling. Mom stood by my bookshelf, a garbage bag in one hand, several of my finance folders in the other. What are you doing? I asked, sitting up fast. Just tidying, sweetie, she said, that honeyed tone wrapping around her words. These old papers were gathering dust. I slid out of bed, crossing the room in 3 quick steps. I took the folders from her hands. These are important documents. Oh, Alexandra. She gave a soft laugh. You and your paperwork. Madison needs this space clear for her equipment. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Madison's Instagram notification. A new post. A family photo from last Christmas captioned, "Making room for my dream studio." So blessed to have such supportive parents. 63 likes already, most from people who'd never even been in our house. I thought we agreed Sunday was moving day, I said, carefully returning the folders to the shelf. Mom sighed, tying off the garbage bag. Plans changed. Madison's equipment arrives Wednesday now, not Sunday. She patted my shoulder. You're always so adaptable, honey. That's what I love about you, adaptable. The word they used when they meant invisible. Downstairs, Dad sat at the kitchen table, coffee mug in hand, newspaper open. His eyes flicked up when I entered, then dropped back to the sports section. Morning, I said, pouring myself some coffee. Some people in this house don't understand sacrifice, he muttered. Ungrateful children taking advantage. The irony burned worse than the coffee. I said nothing as I spread peanut butter on toast, counting the hours until I could finally leave this house behind. That evening, the dining room was crowded with relatives for Mom's monthly family dinner. Aunt Cheryl passed the green beans while Uncle Jim launched into another story about his golf swing. I barely listened until Mom tapped her glass with a spoon. We have exciting news, she announced, her practiced smile wide. Madison has a sponsorship offer from a major cosmetics brand. They're sending professional equipment for her videos, Aunt Cheryl gasped. That's wonderful. And Alexandra's giving up her room so Madison can have her studio, Mom added, as if I'd volunteered with enthusiasm. Every eye turned to me, expecting the polite, supportive sister. I smiled thinly and raised my glass. Family supports family, right? Later that night, my phone buzzed, a message from Marjorie. Found it. The perfect house. 4 bedrooms right across from your parents'. Virtual tour tomorrow. Adot, I stared at the text, something like hope unfolding in my chest. I typed back, yes, first thing. The next day's virtual tour revealed high ceilings and warm hardwood floors, but it was the office that stopped my breath. A spacious room with built-in shelves and a bay window overlooking my parents' front door. I could sit at my desk and watch them come and go, while they'd never even notice me working. What do you think? Marjorie asked through the video call. It's perfect, I whispered, unexpected tears blurring my vision. How soon can we close? Marjorie's face lit up with determination. With your financials and my connections, we can have keys in your hand. Wednesday morning. Wednesday? I repeated, thinking of Madison's equipment delivery. The timing wasn't accidental, it was justice. The signing happened Tuesday afternoon, papers spread across the mahogany table in Marjorie's office. My hand trembled slightly as I signed the final document, a mix of terror and triumph coursing through me. Alexandra, Marjorie said gently as she gathered the papers. In 20 years of real estate, I've never seen someone your age this prepared. I blinked rapidly, unprepared for the warmth spreading through my chest at her words. Back home, I was carefully organizing client files when my bedroom door swung open without a knock. Madison strode in, measuring tape in hand, eyes already scanning my walls. Can I help you with something? I asked, not looking up from my desk. Just measuring for my lighting setup, she said, stretching the tape across one wall. This space is barely adequate, but I'll make it work. I kept typing, each keystroke deliberately calm. I see my brand's about to hit $1 million valuation, she continued, pacing the perimeter of my room. I need this space more than you do. It's not like you're doing anything important with it, if... Only she knew the irony, the quiet financial empire I'd built while she collected followers and free makeup samples. We'll see what happens Sunday, I said, saving my document. Madison laughed, sharp and dismissive. Mom and Dad already decided. You don't have a choice. I looked up, meeting her eyes directly. A small, secretive smile curved my lips. Everyone has choices, I said softly. Some just take longer to make them. Confusion flickered across her face before she rolled her eyes and slammed the door behind her. That night, Chloe arrived with empty boxes just after my family left for their weekly movie night. Operation Independence is a go, she whispered, pulling packing tape from her purse. I've got the essentials list. I hugged her tightly. Thank you. We worked fast, packing my most important things while leaving enough behind to keep up the illusion that I was still there. My college friends arrived an hour later with more boxes and quiet determination. Eli texted, Chloe said, taping another box. Your parents decided to get ice cream. He'll stall them. My brother's unexpected alliance warmed something in me that had been cold for years. Marjorie called past midnight with confirmation. We're set for 9 a.m. at closing. Movers will be at your parents' house by 10 while everyone's at work. Wednesday morning dawned clear and bright. I stood on the sidewalk as Marjorie's car pulled up, keys dangling from her fingers as she stepped out. Congratulations, homeowner, she said, pressing the keys into my hand. The movers arrived promptly at 10, efficient, discreet, and professional. I guided them through my childhood home, indicating what to take and what to leave behind. My desk, my books, my clothes, the tangible remnants of a life I had kept hidden for years. By noon, I was standing in my new master bedroom, watching them assemble my bed frame. The window offered a clear view of my parents' house, the bedroom I had called mine for 27 years now visible from across the street. Where do you want this desk, ma'am? One of the movers asked, pointing to my workstation in the office. I replied, position it facing the front window. Chloe arrived with lunch just as the movers were finishing, her eyes wide as she took in my new home. This is stunning, Alex. And huge, she whispered. We sat on the floor of the living room, eating sandwiches amid half-unpacked boxes. Are you doing this for revenge? She asked softly, as if making them finally see what they'd missed. I considered her question, watching sunlight pattern the hardwood floors. No, I said at last. It's about being seen. That evening, I organized my important papers into a leather portfolio. Deed, financial statements, company records, proof of the life I had built while they weren't paying attention. Standing in front of my bathroom mirror, I practiced my expression, ensuring no trace of anger or hurt leaked through. Sunday's revelation had to be delivered with calm confidence, not emotion. I selected my outfit, a tailored navy blazer, cream silk blouse, and my grandmother's pearl earrings, professional yet familiar, the Alexandra they knew now finally visible. As the last box was unpacked, I returned briefly to my parents' house, to my stripped bedroom. I placed my childhood teddy bear on the pillow, the only personal item left behind. A quiet farewell to the girl who had lived in the shadows. That Saturday night, I stood at my new bedroom window, watching lights glow across the street. Madison's car pulled up, friends spilling out, their laughter drifting through the upstairs window. I watched them explore my empty room, Madison gesturing animatedly about her plans. My phone buzzed with a text from Eli. "They think you're staying with Chloe. What are you really doing?" I smiled and typed back, "Come to coffee tomorrow. You'll want to see this." Setting my phone down, I moved through the quiet house, fingertips brushing the walls that were finally mine. On the entry table, I placed the deed folder squarely in the center. "Tomorrow," I whispered to the empty house, "they'll finally see me." Sunday morning arrived with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I adjusted my charcoal gray blazer, perfectly tailored, and crossed the street toward my parents' house. The weight of the deed folder grounded me. Through the front window, I saw them gathered at the kitchen table. My former prison now just the stage for what comes next. I knocked twice, sharp and confident. Mom opened the door, her smile faltering at the sight of my professional attire. "Alexandra, we weren't expecting you so early." Her eyes flicked toward the street, searching for Chloe's car. "Where did you park?" I walked in without a word, stepping past her into the foyer. The kitchen fell silent. Dad glanced up from his newspaper, Madison from her phone. Only Eli offered a genuine good morning. I poured myself coffee from the counter pot, an action I'd done countless times here. Today it felt different. "I thought you'd be bringing your things," Madison said, sweet-toned but calculating. "I've already picked out paint samples, thinking blush pink with gold accents for my backdrop wall." I settled into my usual chair, legs crossed casually. "That sounds nice." Madison launched into her renovation plans, describing lighting setups and equipment placement. I sipped my coffee, nodding at all the right moments while watching Dad's impatience grow. Timing had to be perfect. "When are you moving your things?" Dad finally interrupted, folding his newspaper with a crisp snap. The room went still, all eyes on me. This was the moment I had rehearsed 100 times. "I already did," I said, voice steady. "Wednesday was my first day, actually." Mom's coffee cup clinked against its saucer. "Staying with Chloe isn't a real solution, Alexandra. You need to think this through rationally." Dad laughed, a sound stripped of warmth. "You'll be back when you can't afford rent. The real world is expensive, especially with your employment history." Madison reached across the table, but I didn't flinch, patting my hand with artificial concern. "Don't be dramatic just because you're jealous of my success. We all have our paths. Even if yours is taking longer to develop, they present a united front, so confident in their assumptions." But for the first time, I notice a flicker of unease in Mom's eyes as I remain unruffled by their dismissals. "Thank you all for your concern," I say, placing the folder on the coffee table with deliberate slowness. "But I'm not renting. I bought a house." The statement hangs in the air, rearranging the molecules between us. I let the silence stretch, savoring the shifting expressions across their faces. Confusion, disbelief, the first edge of alarm. The one across the street, actually. I turned slightly in my chair, pointing through the front window at my new home. 3 stories of brick and character directly in their line of sight. Mom's coffee cup slips from her fingers, splashing brown liquid across the white tablecloth. Dad's mouth opens and closes without sound. Madison sits frozen, her Instagram post forgotten mid-type. "How could you afford that?" Eli asks, breaking the stunned silence. There's no judgment in his voice, only genuine amazement. I straighten my shoulders, embracing the truth I've hidden for years. I own a financial consulting business. A what? Dad's voice cracks. A financial consulting firm. We manage portfolios and investment strategies for clients across the country. I keep my tone, matter of fact as if discussing the weather. We crossed $2.7 million in revenue last quarter. Years of dismissal hang in the balance as I let them process this information. Eli's eyes widened, respect dawning in his expression. Mom recovers first. Her smile tight. It's probably just a starter home with a small mortgage. That neighborhood has become quite affordable lately. I slide financial statements across the table. I paid 60% down. The rest is financed at 2.8%. Madison's phone slips from her hand, clattering onto her plate. You've been lying about your job. Dad's face reddened as he slams his palm against the table. No, I correct him calmly. You've been assuming I was unsuccessful. You never actually asked what I do. The distinction lands like a physical blow. Dad's mouth snaps shut. Mom stands abruptly, grabbing her phone. I need to call Aunt Patricia. This impulsive decision. Go ahead, I say, sipping my coffee. She already knows she's coming to my housewarming party next weekend. Within an hour, the family machinery activates its defense systems. Mom calls 3 relatives, her voice growing increasingly strained as their responses prove disappointingly supportive of my brave new chapter. Madison posts a vague story about toxic family drama that garners minimal engagement compared to her usual content. Through the window, I watch Mr. Johnson from next door slow his morning walk to admire the antique writing desk being carried into my front door by professional movers. The Neighborhood Whisper Network has already activated. Alexandra Pierce, successful businesswoman moving into the Henderson property. The doorbell rings and Chloe enters with a potted fiddle leaf fig and a bottle of champagne. Housewarming gift for the new homeowner, she announces, ignoring the tension thickening the air. Thank you, I say, accepting both with genuine warmth. The contrast between her authentic support and my family's calculated reactions couldn't be clearer. Eli stands, glancing between our parents and me. Can I see your new place, Alex? The request represents more than curiosity. It's the first crack in the family's united front. His willingness to cross the street with me carries weight beyond the physical journey. Of course, I say, gathering my things anytime. As we prepare to leave, Dad clears his throat. We should discuss your future visits. Sunday dinners are a family tradition. I'm still family. I interrupt gently, just living across the street instead of upstairs. Mom's smile doesn't reach her eyes. Of course you are. We're just trying to understand the sudden change, not sudden. I correct her. Just finally visible through the window, I noticed Marjorie's car pulling up to the corner market where Mom buys her weekly groceries. Right on schedule. By afternoon, the entire neighborhood will know the property value of my new home and the substantial down payment I made. As I walk toward the door with Eli and Chloe, a delivery van stops in front of my house. The driver carries an elaborate arrangement of flowers to my porch, a congratulatory gift from my business partners, strategically timed and perfectly visible from my parents' front window. I turn back once before leaving, taking in the tableau of my stunned family. Madison frantically checking her phone as notifications about an expose on fake followers flood her screen, Mom and Dad exchanging worried glances. The unpaid second mortgage application sitting in Dad's email drafts suddenly feeling more precarious. Success is often built in quiet rooms, I say softly, while others are performing. The door closes behind us with a gentle click, separating past from future with half an inch of polished oak across the street. My house, my actual home, stands waiting, windows gleaming in the morning. Sunday. 2 weeks later, the doorbell chimes through my quiet home, interrupting my morning coffee ritual. Through the people, I spot my mother's perfectly coiffed hair and the edge of what appears to be a pie dish. I take a deep breath, straighten my shoulders, and open the door with a neutral expression. Alexandra, sweetheart. Mom holds up a perfectly golden-crusted apple pie. Steam still rising from the lattice top. I made your favorite. We should talk. I step aside, allowing her into the entryway of my new home. Her eyes dart around, taking in the tasteful furnishings, the spacious layout, the unmistakable signs of success she never bothered to notice before. This is quite something you've done here, she says, placing the pie on my kitchen counter. Her hands flutter to her pearl necklace, adjusting it unnecessarily. Your father and I always believed in you, you know. I pour her a cup of coffee without responding. The silence stretches between us. Madison's having a hard time with sponsors, she finally says, staring into her cup rather than meeting my eyes. Some issue with her follower count? Technical things I don't understand. I see, I reply, keeping my voice even. Family supports family. Alexandra. Mom reaches across the counter to touch my hand. I don't pull away, but I don't reciprocate either. We've always been there for each other, haven't we? Later that afternoon, Dad makes his approach. He catches me retrieving mail from my box. His timing too perfect to be coincidental. Your mother misses you, he says without preamble. We all do. We should put this behind us and move forward as a family. I nod politely, sorting through envelopes. I'm open to that possibility, Dad. His relief is palpable, but premature. That evening, my phone lights up with a barrage of texts from Madison. You're destroying this family, Mom cried all afternoon. Everyone thinks you're so selfish after everything they did for you. I place the phone face down on my coffee table and return to reviewing client portfolios. The messages continue to arrive, each vibration less affecting than the last. The next morning, Mom calls to inform me that Aunt Patricia asked about my absence at Sunday dinner. Everyone's concerned about the family image, she says. People are talking. Dad follows up with a voicemail suggesting my business success seems awfully sudden, and questioning whether I've gotten involved with something questionable. The final salvo comes in the form of a formal dinner invitation delivered by hand to my mailbox. Elegant script on cream cardstock requests my presence at the family home tomorrow evening at 7 to reconcile our differences. It reads, and the postscript in Mom's handwriting. After all we've done for you growing up alone that night, doubt creeps in during the quiet hours. Old patterns of guilt surface like well-worn paths in my mind. Perhaps I am being too harsh. Perhaps there is some middle ground where I can make... Remember the laptop money? She asks, spreading cream cheese with unnecessary force. $800 you saved from diner shifts. And they spent it on Madison's camera gear. I wince at the memory. It was 13 years ago. I speak anyway, though the sting feels fresh. Patterns don't change unless people do, Chloe replies. After she leaves, I pull out the journals I've kept since childhood. Page after page records the same cycle. My achievements minimized, my resources commandeered for Madison's dreams. The realization settles over me with a quiet clarity. Their love was always conditional. Mine doesn't have to be. I arrive at my parents' house at precisely 7 the next evening. The table gleams with the good china. Madison sulks at her place setting while Mom fusses with the flower arrangements, and Dad pours wine with meticulous care. Alexandra! Mom exclaims, overly bright, You came! I take my seat, posture relaxed but dignified. The difference is immediate. I'm no longer the daughter desperately seeking approval. I'm a woman who chose to be here on her own terms. Madison flings a few barbs during the salad course. Not everyone can buy their way into feeling important, she mutters. I meet her gaze steadily. You're right. Some people have to earn it. Her fork clatters against her plate. When the main course is served, Dad clears his throat. The signal for reconciliation on their timetable. I needed to build my own life, I say before their rehearsed speeches begin. You needed me to remain invisible. Those two things weren't compatible. Mom's hand freezes midway to her water glass. Alexandra, I'm open to a relationship, I continue calmly, but not one based on what you can take from me. The silence is profound. What does that mean exactly? Dad finally asks cautiously, carefully. I explain how I built my business over years of work, how I funded my education with scholarships and side jobs, how I tried repeatedly to share my successes only to have them dismissed or ignored. That spreadsheet hobby, I quote back, is now worth millions. Madison's face twists, something between rage and envy. For the first time, she sees the difference between her purchased followers and my earned success. The realization visibly burns. Mom tries to redirect. Speaking of your business success, Alexandra, perhaps you could help with family finances, just until Madison gets back on her feet. The trap is set, but not as she intended. From my purse, I pull out a folder documenting every instance they took, from the laptop savings to college fund withdrawals for Madison's headshots. Dad begins to protest, but his words falter when I place before him his own signature on a withdrawal slip from my college account. Madison erupts into a tantrum about fairness and family loyalty, exposing her entitlement more clearly than any argument I could make. Through it all, I remain composed. The family narrative crumbles around us, but I neither gloat nor rage. There's no satisfaction in watching them face reality, only the quiet relief of finally being seen. I am willing to have a relationship founded on mutual respect. I make it clear that once the storm settles, that includes financial boundaries. I won't support anyone without accountability. I turn to Madison. You can apologize sincerely, and we can try to build something new. Or you can cling to your stance, and we will maintain our distance. My parents sit stunned, confronting consequences perhaps for the first time. You gave me an ultimatum about my room. I rise from the table. I choose freedom. I leave without tears or anger, walking the short distance across the street to my own home. The family house is visible across the way, windows glowing with artificial warmth. Eli appears at his upstairs window. I lift a hand in a small wave, a quiet offer of connection separate from our parents. He returns it, thoughtful. One by one, the lights in my parents' house go dark as I stand on my porch. My own home remains bright, warm with the light of independence. I hear through neighborhood whispers that Madison's career has begun to unravel, fake followers exposed, sponsorships withdrawn, her influence crumbling. Meanwhile, my parents face the prospect of financial strain, drained by years of supporting Madison's illusions. I watch the for sale sign hammered into their lawn the following week, feeling neither triumph nor regret, only the quiet certainty that some lessons come at a higher cost than others. Morning sunlight streams through my kitchen window, casting a golden glow across the countertop. 6 months have passed since that Sunday dinner ultimatum, and what once felt like defiance now simply feels like home. I cradle my coffee mug and step onto the front porch, breathing in the crisp autumn air. My house. Not my parents' house, not my childhood bedroom. My house has transformed from an empty statement into a true sanctuary. The living room walls, once bare, now display framed awards from the Columbus Business Association, including last month's Emerging Entrepreneur Honor. My consulting firm has grown to 5 employees, all working remotely, yet gathering monthly in my converted dining room for strategy sessions across the street. The curtain stayed drawn at my parents' house. The for sale sign had gone up weeks ago, right after Madison's final sponsored post announcing her career pivot into entry-level marketing. I took another sip of coffee, surprised by how little satisfaction their downfall brought me. The revenge fantasy had burned itself out, leaving something quieter and more valuable in its place. "Morning, Alexandra," Mrs. Henderson called from her driveway next door. "Those moms on your steps are gorgeous." I waved back, still getting used to being visible in this neighborhood where I'd been a shadow for 27 years. Inside, I checked my watch. 3 hours until the housewarming party. The irony wasn't lost on me that the same dining table where my parents once delivered their ultimatum now stood in my home, repurposed for celebration instead of control. I'd bought it at their hastily arranged estate sale. paying twice its worth while Madison glared from the porch. The doorbell rang. Eli stood there holding a potted plant. "You're early," I said, stepping aside to let him in. "Thought you might need help setting up." He set the plant down, hands in his pockets. At 19, his shoulders had straightened, his voice deepened. Community college suited him. "Place looks amazing," he said. "Thanks for coming." I smiled, squeezing his arm. Our relationship had become the unexpected gift in all. This, the slow construction of a real sibling bond built on mutual respect instead of shared childhood wounds. "Remember when Dad asked where you saw yourself in 5 years?" Eli asked, arranging chairs in the living room. "At that dinner?" I nodded, unpacking the catering trays. "Yeah, where do you see yourself now?" The question landed differently this time. Before, it had felt like a demand for justification. Now it sounded like curiosity. "Building something that matters," I said. "Not just the business, a life where I don't need anyone's approval to know my worth." Last week, I found my childhood journal while unpacking the final box. On the last page, I'd written, "The room they wanted to take became the foundation for the life I built." Those words felt like a bridge between past and future, acknowledging the pain without letting it define me. By noon, my house filled with voices. Chloe arrived first, throwing her arms around me, to building your own house, literally and figuratively. She toasted, lifting her glass. Marjorie Klein followed, her realtor portfolio tucked away, here now as a friend. My business partners came next, bringing clients who had become allies. The room buzzed with conversation about future projects and expansion plans. Between chats, I slipped into my office to finalize the scholarship paperwork, a fund for business students from challenging family backgrounds. Yesterday, I'd mentored a young woman whose father had belittled her ambitions. I watched recognition light up her eyes as I shared my story. "Your worth isn't determined by those who can't see it." I told her how I helped Eli submit his engineering program application. Last week, his talent for numbers finally finding direction after years in Madison's shadow evening. Found me watering plants on the front porch as Madison's small U-Haul pulled up across the street. She was moving to a downtown apartment, smaller than she'd hoped, but better than nothing. Our parents loaded the last of their belongings into their sedan. The house emptied before the bank foreclosure. I raised a hand in a small wave as they glanced my way. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. They'd told me to give up my room, so I built a company in it and bought a home across the street. That night, I stood in my bedroom doorway, surveying the space that was undeniably mine. No one could take it. No one could diminish it. My business continued to grow, creating opportunities not just for me, but for others. My relationship with my parents remained distant, boundaries firmly in place. Perhaps someday healing might be possible, if they changed. I slipped between the cool sheets of the master bedroom, watching moonlight pattern the ceiling for the first time in my life. I slept without questioning if I was enough. Have you ever had to choose between pleasing family and standing up for yourself? Alexandra learned that sometimes the greatest act of self-respect is setting boundaries. What would you have done in her situation? Share your thoughts below. Subscribe.